How's it going, fellow traders? It's Magic Trader here. This is the Forex Market Outlook for November 30th, 2018. So, welcome back. We're going to take a look at the markets. There's been some decent moves in the markets this week. So we're going to examine what is taking place with each of the currency pairs and see if we can spot any good trading opportunities. I'm already in some trades, some theme trades, and I opened up a couple new ones this week. Excuse me, and we're going to go through those, and I'm going to explain the thinking behind these trades that I've opened. So first we're going to start by taking a look at gold. And so we have a chart of gold here, and we know that we're in between the weekly area of demand and the weekly area of supply here. And so we're basically stuck, and we see a lot of this happening in between these two areas. Okay? So now it's a matter of which one gets taken out. Is it the top or the bottom? If supply gets taken out, likelihood of a move like this. If demand gets taken out, likely of a move like this. It's that simple. But we've been able to determine that by looking at the CFTC report, the institutions have been heavily aggressive with their short positions, and so we were expecting some profit taking, which is what has taken place. And we're starting to see that we started to see that here, a drop from shorts being added and a continuation of the profit taking. So it's very likely that if they continue with the profit taking, they can start accumulating a long position, and then we'll see a bigger move begin to form like that. Just taking technicals into consideration, anything can really happen. I mean, I think there's a likelihood of this taking place. When we normally have a supply being created by removing an opposing demand, what typically happens is price retraces back up to the areas here for a bigger move to the downside. So is that going to take place right now? It's hard to say. The technicals suggest that it's possible. It's more likely than not. But then again, this can hold, and we can start to see a bigger move to the downside. So just waiting on the sidelines when it comes to trading gold. Not interested in trading this right now. Okay, so now we have oil. And so Brent oil. And so it removed an opposing monthly area of demand that was tested. Removed it, and now it has validated a new area of supply here on the monthly chart, nested at this descending 3-month trend line. This is going to be a really good spot. If we get consolidation down here, and candle closing down here, a candle closing, then shorts up here is going to be gold. And if you take a look, you'll see that this weekly area of supply, the one that was responsible for removing this area of demand, is nested within there. So this is a really good spot for taking shorts if we can get up there. I think there's a good chance that that takes place over the next few months, possibly even weeks. But we'll wait and see what's happening. So on this chart here on crude, it's removed an opposing demand because it was tested, so it removed it. But if we take a look at WTI oil, it's sitting right inside a monthly area of demand. Okay, so it's sitting within demand, nested at the ascending trend line on the monthly chart, and so we're seeing a stalling action here on the weekly chart. I've opened up a theme trade to go long already. So the theme being profit taking and a push upwards to eventually add in more shorts to give them a bigger move to the downside. That is the theme that I'm trading right now. And I think it's got very good odds of working because, at the end of the day, the monthly trend is up. We're at an ascending monthly trend line, and we're at a monthly demand zone. So very, very powerful forces coming into play to push price up. And so because there isn't an exact area to get in, I mean, you can take a trade off of this weekly area of demand should it get down there, but I'm not going to wait and see if it's going to get down there. That's why I'm interested in opening up my theme long positions, and I've already started in with one position so far. And once it starts to build momentum to the upside, I'll start adding more. You got supply here, supply here. So once these start getting taken out and starting to show me really good signs of that momentum shift taking place, then I'll start adding more to my overall long position. All right, let's take a look at the dollar. So the dollar on the daily chart is trending upwards with an ascending trend line here. You can see that price has respected it, hit the demand zone, went up, respected it, and it's going back up again. We got a weekly area of demand and control as well. So we got the weekly force to the upside, daily force to the upside, weekly trend is up, daily trend is up. All forces are pushing up. So anything can really happen at this juncture. We can see a continuation of a move to the upside, or we can see a sell-off and a move to the downside. So once again, we're in a situation on the technicals that would suggest a push higher, but the fact that the monthly is in consolidation leads us to believe that there's any type of movement that can happen. We can see a push down from here or a push up. There's no set structure that's keeping price to push higher on the monthly chart. So taking that into consideration, we look at the CFTC data, and what we have been able to determine is that based on positions that are being held by the institutions, we are at levels that they would typically take profits on longs. So is this a distribution phase taking place where they are offsetting or not offsetting, but offloading their long positions for a push to the downside? That's very possible. Okay, we got to keep that in mind. That's very possible. They are overly aggressive with 86% of their overall exposure geared to the long side. How much more long can they add? Well, it all depends. Okay, so there's a very good chance that we can see a drop like this. That's what I'm watching for. And based on the CFTC COT report, I think that's where I'm leaning towards, is that. Okay, so until I see something different, I am going to stick with that. So now we take a look at the Aussie. Okay, so one thing that's really important to understand here is if we were to expect a move to the downside like this, we would expect the Aussie, the Euro, the Pound, the Kiwi to all show some strength. Okay, so then we look at those charts and we take a look at whether or not we're seeing signs of strength coming into the market. And obviously you can see that taking place here. On the monthly, we have that trend line here broken, move to the upside, testing this weekly area of supply for the second time. A push up, a drop, and now it's coming back up to test it again. So really strong force pushing upwards here. And it looks like it's just trying to eat away at all the supply within this area for a bigger push to the upside. So considering that the US dollar has levels that are reminiscent of sell-offs, and seeing this momentum shifting on the Aussie chart, it builds up strength to the idea that the US dollar is going to drop and that we're going to see a bigger move to the upside on the Aussie. Okay, so if the Aussie is to get strong, we'd want to see that correlated within the other Aussie cross pairs. So let's take a look at the other Aussie cross pairs to see if we can see that. All right, so here we have a situation where a monthly area of supply that was responsible for removing a 3-month area of demand is in control. So looking at this one, we see that there is the expected weakness to come into the Aussie CAD. So should we believe that it's the Aussie weakness that's going to make this drop, or is it going to be the CAD being stronger? Now remember, if the dollar drops, it's likely that the US CAD chart is going to drop, which would lead the Canadian dollar to get stronger. So that could be the reason behind a push to the downside here on the Aussie CAD. So that is kind of aligned with what we're thinking is going to take place, all right? So let's take a look at the Aussie yen. Now I've placed a trade off of this here. This is an institutional trade signal right here. So let's examine why this is an institutional trade signal, okay? So we have a situation on the monthly right here where there is a monthly area of demand, right here. Price dropped from a higher time frame area of supply down to this area of demand, and now it's sitting in this demand area. So we don't have a trend in place on the monthly, so we have a moderate force to the upside here. So once it got tested on the weekly chart, we had a descending trend line that got broken through. Price came down, tested the top side of the descending trend line, which there happened to be this daily area of demand that was responsible for removing the weekly trend line. Price came in, so now we have moderate force to the upside from the weekly. Okay, we have a momentum shift to the upside on the weekly. We have a daily force in play, and then you break it down to the 4-hour, and we had this range here, top, bottom, price came, and now breaking out of the range, leaving us with new momentum shift 4-hour demand. Okay, so this is a decent signal. Do we have an uptrend on the weekly? No, we don't. Would that help this trade? Yes, it would. Okay, so we have to take each element and substantiate the importance of each of those elements. All right, and in my analysis, I take a look and I see moderate force to the upside, momentum shift taking place on the weekly, momentum shift daily, demand zone responsible for removing the weekly trend line is in control, so the force is up, and we get a momentum shift on the 4-hour. So there's a lot of forces pushing price to the upside, and when you take a look at the charts here, what is going to stop price from moving higher? Well, we have this area tested, so price can easily break through it, and the next area is here. This is the next fresh area of supply on the daily chart, and guess what? That's my first target. If price pushes upwards like this momentum is to the upside, okay? And the only thing stopping price is the monthly area of supply up here. You know, you take a look at the monthly chart, it's clean sailing all the way up there. So nothing blocking price, so there shouldn't be any reason. So considering that there shouldn't be any reason, what are the other reasons that would make this a good long trade? Well, we take a look at the Aussie. We see that momentum shift to the upside. We see it testing this weekly area of supply a couple times. We see it gaining strength. We look at here on the monthly chart. It looks like it's going to close at a monthly bullish engulf, and nothing to stop it from getting from here to here. All right, so that's a pretty decent move from here to here. So the Aussie strength that is very likely to come into play will help the Aussie yen. What other element would we need for this trade to work out? For a push upwards like this to take place, we need one element, Aussie strength, which we've just verified is very possible to take place. And the second thing is we'd need yen weakness. So we scan over to the yen and we take a look. Is there a chance that we're going to see weakness? Well, we see a very well built structure here that just maintains its strength and holds very strong. Okay, and we take a look at the monthly chart. We had this descending trend line that was holding price down, and now we've broken to the upside. So this acts as support. So if you take a look here, even though we are at levels that would typically cause some selling of long positions and a move to the downside, I think the downside is very limited. From this support, from this supporting structure, many aspects of this chart is showing me a lot of support. So that lends to what we need here. If the US dollar Japanese yen provides support based on the chart dynamics, then that means the Aussie, the US dollar Japanese yen, will more likely hold form rather than falling off of a cliff. Because if it was to fall, then that means the yen would get stronger. We don't want that. If it is to hold its value to some degree, and the Aussie is the currency that becomes stronger, then that lends perfectly for this move to the upside. So this is the reason why I have elected to take this trade. Okay, now in the forum, I do want to bring this up because it's important to recognize something. In the forum, I've placed a section here called Trade Signals on Watch, because I'm going to be using this area to post the trade signals that I spot on the charts. Okay, and I'm going to tell you what makes them a trade signal and whether they're aggressive, high quality, decent quality. I'm only going to be placing the good odds scenarios, the high odds scenarios. If I see a trade signal forming, I'm going to post it here. Or if something very specific needs to happen for a trade signal to be produced, I'm going to post it here, because I want you to see what it takes for a trade signal to be produced. Okay, I really want you to learn from that. There's no sense in me just finding the perfect situations that I want to trade and posting them into the portfolio, because then you're going to miss out on many opportunities to learn what I'm watching for in a trade signal. And so that's why I'm going to use this section here. And sometimes when I mention things in these Outlook videos, they could easily be lost, but if I make a record of them and post the chart and the analysis here in this section here, there'll be a record of it, and you'll be able to come back here and take a look at it in the future and see how these signals eventually play out. Now, I've placed an Aussie US dollar trade signal in here because, you know, we see that momentum to the upside. We've examined the Aussie US dollar, and we know that there's a good chance for price to go up here. But I want you to notice the difference between this signal here and this signal here. Okay, even though there's a good chance of price moving up here, we have to respect the fact that there's a weekly area of supply and control here. When weekly areas of supply are in control, we have to assume that price is going to drop unless it gets taken out. Once it gets taken out, then we know its power has been rendered useless, okay, obsolete. So do I want to take a chance that price is going to hold this daily area of demand? Well, I can tell you through all the years of studying and journaling and analyzing that there is a very high odds that this is going to hold and price is going to continue. That's why I believe that there's a very good chance that this 4-hour area of demand will be used to help facilitate a larger move to the upside. Okay, but it is aggressive, and you have to recognize that it is an aggressive trade, and there's elements of it that make it positive and a high quality, but there's elements of it that make it more of aggressive. So, and here's the reason why, is that weekly area of supply. Okay, and it's pretty much similar to the Kiwi. Okay, I believe that this 4-hour area of demand is going to be used to help facilitate a move to the upside. And when we get to this pair, we'll examine the reasons for that. But at the end of the day, what do we have? A weekly area of supply and control. So again, when a weekly area of supply, even though it's weak, we have to give it the respect that it deserves and assume that it's going to come into play, and the forces from that supply are going to drop price. Okay, now there are certain circumstances that will lead you to believe that this will be what is going to end up playing out, and this is one of those scenarios. But in your own time, you're going to learn when those scenarios are and when they're not. And so, do I want to take this trade? I really don't. I really don't, because I've learned many times that you can't always assume that these areas are going to break. You have to be somewhat careful with taking these type of trades. So, you know, out of the Aussie US dollar, Aussie yen, and Kiwi dollar, if I had to take one trade, it's the Aussie Japanese yen, and that's the reason why I've placed my orders in there. But the reason why I posted these 3 charts within the trade signals on watch is because I want you to learn what a trade signal looks like. From my level of understanding the markets, these are trade signals, and they are valid. Aggressive, but valid. And if you find yourself to be an aggressive trader one day after you doing your analysis and your work, you can take trades like this too, because what I've come to learn is these very aggressive trades, I would say between 7 and 8 times out of 10 they work out wonderfully. Okay, so that's why I'm posting them here, is for you to learn, but I'm also letting you know that they are aggressive in nature. Okay, so you are well aware beforehand. Okay, so let's take a look now at the Aussie Kiwi. What do we see with the Aussie Kiwi? Very difficult to tell what's going on here because, yes, the demand imbalance is in control, and now we're about to test that demand imbalance for a second time. So how it's going to react from that demand imbalance, it's tough to say. Okay, very tough to say. And also on the weekly chart, we had this trend line drawn like this, which validated this zone here. So technically you could draw a demand zone here, and you can see that price kind of reacted from the area here. The reason why I have not drawn it in yet is because I don't want to assume there's going to be strength at these levels. And if you take a look at this drop here, there's that close barely happened, and then we got the lower low, but you know, this did end up holding, which verifies that there must have been a trend here that other traders were looking at. So tricky, but I don't want to draw it just yet because I don't want to put too much emphasis on that area. Okay, so let's take a look at the CAD. Man, we were talking about the US CAD and how there's a likelihood of it holding form just like the US dollar Japanese yen. And so that means as price moves up here, CAD gets weaker, right? And I think it was on the Aussie CAD where we were examining a drop happening could be from, oh, CAD weakness. That's correct. Yeah, CAD weakness. Okay, so let's take a look at the form here. So it is on the underside of this ascending trend line. So it does lead me to believe that it is possible for a drop. At the same time, we are at a monthly area of supply, and we have yet to have this candle close. Once this month closes, this downward trend is going to be broken. But still monthly area of supply. This here did not provide a proper consolidation away. Technically it did a little bit, so we could see a drop. Once this here, this structure is broken, then we could definitely see a drop here. So, you know, strength on the CAD. So let's take a look at the CAD yen. Is it possible to see strength on the CAD? We've already talked about how on the US dollar Japanese yen, it's likely that it's going to hold structure. So therefore, holding strength. So if it holds strength, but the CAD gets stronger, we would assume that a move like this is what is going to take place. So let's examine this. We have a monthly momentum shift supply zone in control. We had that push to the downside, the ascending trend line holding. So price is holding the ascending trend line. So can it move up like this? It's possible, very possible. At the end of the day, a 6-month trend line is in control here. So force of prices to the upside. So Canadian dollar strength is possible to see in this chart. I wouldn't trade it, but taking a look at here, this chart, and seeing if it makes sense that the Canadian dollar is going to get stronger would help us in our analysis in understanding what is potentially going to play out with the US CAD. Alright, so let's take a look at the euro dollar. Excuse me. So the euro dollar still holding that descending trend line here. Okay. Price came up, responded to the daily area of supply and dropped, came back up, hit the trend line, hit that supply and dropped. Came and hit the momentum shift for our supply zone and is dropping right towards this area of demand on the 4-hour chart. So we could see price hit and then push to the upside. Bottom line is, what's taking place here? Well, what's taking place is that the descending structure on the daily chart is holding shape. So, but it could also be that they are preparing for a move to the upside. Okay, we've looked at the dollar, we've examined what is taking place there. We know that the dollar is at levels where was it the dollar? Let's just remind myself here. Yes, we know that the dollar is at levels where we could potentially see some profit taking on long positions, so that would lend us to believe that it's possible for us to see a push to the upside. But again, We got demand here, supply here, so anything can really happen in between these areas. All right. So let's take a look at the other euro pairs to see what they are telling us. So with the euro, we see weakness here, the trend line breaking. We see this area being taken out, no reversal to the weekly area of supply, and it looks like it wants to continue downwards. This is already tested here, so this can break. It would drop. This is already tested, so it could drop to the tested area of weekly demand here, which is the tested area of monthly demand. So we could see euro weakness and Aussie strength. So it could mean that the euro is going to hold shape as the Aussie gets stronger. That's a possibility. Or it could mean the euro is going to get weaker and the Aussie going to get stronger, which would force this all the way down. So that kind of makes sense, right? We were looking at the Aussie and we were wondering if it's going to get stronger. Looking at the euro Aussie, it's supporting the Aussie getting stronger. So this is aligned with our analysis. Let's go to the euro CAD. What do we see here? Kind of holding shape, right? It's in between weekly area of demand, right here, and supply right here, and holding form. So we have the ascending structure on the daily, the weekly holding down. It's pretty much in between. And you can see it's compressing, compressing, compressing. Okay? So euro strength, CAD strength. If the Canadian dollar gets stronger, we'd expect a move to the downside. Trend is up on the monthly. Nothing really holding price up here except for that demand that's within that bullish engulf. It's hard to tell. When it's in the wedge, it has to either break down or break up. So we'll wait and see what ends up playing out with this chart. Euro pound, we got weekly area of supply and control. It reacted, price dropped into the weekly area of demand, which pushed price up. So we're seeing a lot of this up and down right now. So there's nothing much more to see on this pair. So let's go over to the euro yen. And again, another one where there's a lot of range bound motion. We had this opposing 4-hour supply taken out, causing a new area of demand to be created, and now price is dropping into it, and now we're seeing that demand coming into the market. But besides that, there's not much more to say about that. So we look at the euro Kiwi. So the euro Kiwi looks like it wants to drop. Is that based on the euro getting weaker, or is it because of the Kiwi getting stronger? So we can use this as another piece of our evidence, whether the euro is going to get weaker over time or the Kiwi is going to get stronger. And you know, if you've been following along with the usual reports and the Forex market outlook videos that I've been producing, you'll know that we have a bias towards Aussie strength and Kiwi strength. So the euro can pretty much just hold shape or hold form and not do much. But what would cause this big drop is the euro to get stronger. So we know that there's already a tested area here of weekly demand. So this can easily break and drop. And if you take a look at the monthly chart, there's nothing to stop price from dropping all the way down here. So this lends very well to our analysis in the fact that the euro could potentially not show us much, but the Kiwi is likely to continue to get stronger. Okay, so let's take a look now into the pound pairs to see if we can see any more evidence that will give us a good conclusion with our analysis. So we look at the pound. It's sitting within this daily area of demand, just holding, not doing much. Okay, a little bit of strength, weakness. Not much more is happening than that. You could take a look at the monthly. It can definitely fall a little bit deeper until it actually tests this monthly area of demand. A weekly area of demand has been tested multiple times, so there's not much here that we can see. Alright, so let's move on and take a look at the other pound pairs. Pound Aussie, we see that there is a trend to the upside on the monthly, big push to the downside, hitting that trend line. Weekly area demand holding right now with a trend to the upside on the weekly, and we could see pound strength coming into the market. It's likely, but if this continues to push down here, and this is a test upwards and a test deeper, if it continues to push and force price through, this can easily break and cause a push to the downside. And that would lend us to believe that the pound is either going to get weaker or hold form, and the Aussie is going to get stronger. So we're starting to see the same thing here, matching with the rest of our analysis, right? Aussie strength. Let's see if Kiwi strength. Take a look. We're seeing something very similar. Look at that. Big drop right towards the ascending trend line, but there's no demand here. Okay? And there's a once tested, second test, weekly area of demand. So this can break and cause price to drop lower. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of weakness here. So that lends well to Kiwi strength. Once again, pound CAD, what do we see here? We see not much taking place. It's in between supply and demand until one of them gets taken out. There's nothing to lead us to believe any currency is going to get stronger or weaker. We look at the pound the pound yen, and we had this imbalance come into play. Price came up, and now it's just doing a bunch of nothing. Daily area of demand in control, and not much to see here, so we move on to the US CAD. We were touching upon this, where this structure can break and see a drop, because we do have a lot of obstacles ahead of us. Monthly supply, okay, underside of a ascending trend line on the weekly chart. So we're seeing a lot of things here that could help facilitate a move to the downside, including a weak dollar. Okay, so now we got the strength coming into that. Look at that. So holding shape really well, holding form really well. It looks like that instead of the Kiwi getting stronger with the other currencies, it's likely it's going to continue to hold or possibly get even weaker, even considering the fact that 80% of their overall exposure is geared to the long side. Okay, but let me just take a look at something really quickly. Just wanted to take a look here at the US dollar, Japanese yen. Aggressive, they took some profits, now aggressive again. Overall, yeah, they could add. They've got room to add. It is a little bit aggressive. 80%, you know, it's hard to say. Anything can really take place. We could see some profit taking, and it'd be somewhat of a small drop. You know, we got that under the top side of that descending trend line. The 20 EMA, there's a lot of things that can keep price upwards, but it's very difficult to say. I do think there's a good chance that it's going to somewhat hold form up in these areas as price plays out on the other charts. So we go to the Kiwi. You know, Kiwi strength is what we're seeing, right? So we got that weekly area of supply in control. Price came up, dropped, and like attacking it again. Okay? And so this was the area that I have mentioned on a previous Forex Market Outlook video, that this was going to likely hold, very likely hold, based on market dynamics. And that's exactly what took place. So like I was saying before, when you've been doing this long enough and you get a good grasp of the forces that come into play and what's taking place, you'll start to understand what zones should hold and which ones should eventually be taken out. And this is one of those areas that I believed was going to hold. And I was looking for a momentum shift to take place off of it. And here's the momentum shift right here that took place off of it. And this is why it's a trade signal. Okay? At the end of the day, we still have higher time frame areas of supply in control. So I'd like to see those move before I have a better feeling of this move to the upside. The other thing is too, if you look at the monthly chart here, you'll see that there's a 20 EMA right there with a downtrend on the monthly. So that could also cause price to stall and see some weakness. So that's another reason why the long trade signal off of the 4-hour zone is aggressive. Okay. Now we go over to the US dollar yen. Sorry, the US dollar Swiss. So I got into a theme trade here because, you know, you take a look here at the monthly. I'm expecting the dollar to get stronger. I'm expecting this currency to get stronger as well. This currency pair, the US dollar Swiss. And we see that there's an ascending structure on the monthly. Trend is up, and we got a monthly area of supply that was tested once, twice, and 3 times right here. This is eventually going to break, in my opinion. We have an ascending structure on the weekly. We have a trend to the upside. This here is a great spot to add some really serious theme trades. Okay, I think that if price gets down here, this is exactly the area I'd like to get in to some theme trades, because I think this is the most ideal spot. If this was to be taken out and price go like this, then this whole concept and idea of this structure holding is broken. But because I see what I see on the monthly, and I see this ascending structure with the weekly area of demand here, this leads me to believe that this is going to be the area, if price was to drop, where the institutions would be extremely happy to get into more long positions from here. And I'll do the same alongside with them. Plus, holding long positions on this pair is only going to feed my account positively, as there's positive swaps on here. So I'm already in, and I'm not going to take the chance that price isn't going to make this move to the downside. That's why I'm already establishing a position. Okay. Also, off that daily area of demand that we had here, let me show you. Right here, off this daily area of demand here, we had a momentum shift on the 4-hour. Right here. Oh, sorry, this area being taken out, momentum shift here, which is leading me to believe that there's going to possibly be a move to the upside here. So I'm in the position. If price was to drop all the way down here, I have no worries about it, because the position is so small that it really won't affect my account. And then when price gets down here, I would just start accumulating more longs. Again, that position, holding a long position from here, even if price dropped down, I'm going to be earning positive swaps. And because I believe very strongly that price will eventually come back up, that position going into the minus will eventually turn into a positive, and it'll all work out in the end. Okay, ladies and gents, so that is your Forex market outlook video for this week, filled with a lot of information, but I hope that you spent some time going through this and updating your charts and really focusing and journaling what I'm talking about in these videos, because a lot of good nuggets of information that you can use to elevate your understanding of the markets. Okay, that's it for now. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week and your weekend, and until next time, take care.